I loosed her into a cottage full of Scotsmen to see what she'd do. And she walked in, they all turned around and stared at her, and I'm thinking, why does she look odd? And one of them stood up and he said, "My name's Dougal Mackenzie, and who might you be?" And without my stopping to think, I just typed, "My name's Claire Elizabeth Beecham, and who the hell are you?" And I said, "Well, you don't sound at all like an 18th century person." So I fought with her for several pages, trying to beat her into shape and make her talk like an 18th century person. She wasn't having any. She just kept making smart-ass modern remarks. And she also took over and started telling the story herself. And I said, "Well, fine, I'm not going to fight with you all the way through this book." I said, "No one's ever going to see it. It doesn't matter what I do. Go ahead and be modern. I'll figure out how you got there later." So it's all her fault that there's time travel. But then, of course, I had to decide, where did she come from and how did she get there? And I was doing the research, as I still do, concurrently with the writing. So I was looking at anything to do with Scotland and the culture, landscape, customs, geography, costume, language. And as I was cruising through all of this stuff, I kept seeing mentions of standing stones all over northern Britain. And I was thinking, well, that's interesting. I never knew that. You hear about Stonehenge, but I had no idea that there are all these other little stone circles, and yet they're all over the place. And so I became intrigued just by seeing them repeatedly mentioned because they're so mysterious. Everyone's fascinated by them. And every time I would read a description of a specific circle, they'd describe it in great detail. And then they would speculate about it. And they'd say, well, it could be an astronomical observatory because of the way it's set up for the sun on the equinox or the solstice and all this. So obviously they were taking advantage of the sun. But every single description would end up by saying, but no one actually knows the purpose of the stone circles. So I began to think, well, possibly I do.